Okay, so tonight I'd like to discuss topic that related to Ethereum 2.0. You know, we've been talking a lot about Solidity and Ethereum and focused on, learning Solidity, building contracts. We haven't really spoke much about Ethereum 2.0, which of course is coming. And coming very shortly. Well, part of that is replacing the EVM, and I'm trying to remember what that stands. Basically, it's what, like the JVM for Solidity. It's a virtual machine, the Ethereum Virtual Machine, and it's designed to do a lot of things. It's designed. The way they described it, there's this other article right here by, what's the gentleman's name who wrote it? He wrote actually a 3-part article, and about almost 2 years ago, by Colin Schwartz. And he talks about that it was designed not for speed and efficiency, but for correctness. This is why when there's issues of scalability on Ethereum right now, and gas, the cost, remember we see gas when we do our transaction, that's the cost of doing the transaction, can be high. And it can discourage transactions when precisely when people want to do them, when Ethereum's going nuts and people want to trade, or when we use a smart contract. That, every part of that contract could potentially cost resources, speed. I don't know if you've ever moved Ethereum from one wallet to the other, like from the brokerage where you bought it to your hard wallet, or maybe to stake it somewhere. Whatever you're going to do, it's slow. You sit there and you're like, did I do something wrong? Why is this not moving? So that's a big problem with the EVM. EWASM is designed, as they say here, for speed and efficiency. There are, and if we go here, they talk about some of the advantages. So near native execution, so it's going to be much faster, and it'll allow us to take advantage of WebAssembly, because it's a version of WebAssembly. I think it's stripped down a little bit to work on the Ethereum blockchain. What does that mean? Well, that means you can take advantage of other languages like C++ and Rust. It means, remember, when we looked at Polkadot a while back, and I think at some point we want to get back to the substrates, we were able to use Ink, which is built on top of Rust, and Rust and C++, more traditional language, you can use those with WebAssembly, whereas you cannot use them with the Ethereum VM, which is kind of tied to Solidity. So what does that also mean? That means without having to necessarily use Solang. Remember, actually, Solang was to take Ethereum Solidity contracts and turn them into Substrate, where they can run on Substrate. Well, now you can go the other way. You wrote something for Polkadot, and now I want it to run on Ethereum. So I believe that this is going to have great advantage. I think pretty much everyone believes this is going to have great advantages for the Ethereum blockchain, Ethereum 2.0, and keep it competitive with some of the other newer blockchains. Speed it up and I think and make execution cheaper. If we want contracts that are used constantly and become ubiquitous, it can't cost money to execute them, or a lot of money. So this is going to help in that. It will. I read one place that it will make. It'll make perhaps Rust be rather than Solidity, be the language for blockchain programming. So gotta keep that in mind now. Right now I've been doing a lot of work with Solidity, but I think we want to at some point get back to the Rust and the Ink. Remember, Ink is sort of built on top of Rust to make things a little easier. But if you think about it, there's a trade-off, right? You can have something that takes longer to do, but is more flexible. You can do much more flexibility in terms of what you're doing, but it can take longer. Or you can have something that it's not quite as complicated, but it's more limited. Trying to think of a example. Well, think about the example with the substrate. You can write it in pure Rust, and it's going to take a certain amount of time. But if you use Ink, it's going to take less time, but Ink is perhaps a bit more constrained. Another example, I've been looking at different tools for marketing funnels, and if you compare, like I've been comparing ClickFunnels and Kartra. So ClickFunnels is a lot more, things are, you don't, much more laid out for you. You can just grab their templates and go. Kartra, not so much, but you can be much more flexible and it's more powerful. And again, it's a trade-off. What are you trying to do? I have seen an example where that trade-off can lead a little bit to disaster. I worked on something years ago, and they were using this particular tool. And this particular tool, of course, made it very easy to build the type of apps that they were trying to build. Problem was, said tool created its own Oracle database that was like tied together with the code, and there were times, and guilty, where I was deploying code, and you make a mistake in deploying code in that situation, you can blow up your database. Yeah. And that almost seemed criminal to me. I mean, how can you have a system where your database is so intertwined with your code that a bad deployment can blow up your database? They should be separate. A bad deployment, you should be able to roll it back, fix whatever you have to. It shouldn't even touch the database. The only way your code should be able to hurt the database is if once it's running, if you have some call that deletes something it shouldn't, or it does something it shouldn't. But if normal code that calls databases is not going to blow up the entire database. So these are the types of trade-offs that you run into in coding. And it depends on a lot of things. How much time you have. Depends on the skill set of the individual or individuals doing the coding. If you have a non-technical person, and they want to build, let's say, a marketing funnel, you want a tool that's going to be easy, or someone who just wants to let's say they have some product they just want to get out there, some digital product. Well, maybe the easiest way is one company's tool set, one company's product tool set and that's great, but maybe there are limitations. The pages have to only going to look a certain way or have a certain branding or whatever it is. Another case where you have someone who's more comfortable dealing with the technical end, maybe they're going to be willing to, go into something that is not, that's a bit more technical, that gives them a bit more flexibility, automations. Maybe they're going to start with a blank page and pull in their components rather than start with something pre-made and then just input it, switch out their logos and their text and what have you. Same thing here. If you're, an ink or solidity may make life easier in terms of the coding, but like we're seeing with Ethereum, it doesn't have the scalability that's needed now the blockchain is blowing up. Whereas if Rust and EWASM and EWASM will give you the additional speed and let you maybe build a contract in Rust that may take longer, but it'll give you more flexibility in terms of how you're doing things. Now, one thing I have to research a little bit is what's the security implications of this. That's something, especially when we're talking about Radix saying, hey, Solidity developers spend all their time making something, secure, but with our system you don't have to. Perhaps. I'm not going to doubt them on that. They have, and they appear to have gone pretty in depth in terms of their consensus and things of that nature. But this may be something that might also, maybe it does provide more security, or maybe you have to be more careful. And there's one other thing when beyond the scope of tonight's discussion about the gas prices, and I read something about, I forget what it was called, but one of the effects of it would be that gas prices are going to be more stable and predictable, again making it more usable at scale. So hopefully this has been helpful. I really think we're going to want to dive into this a bit. I think that perhaps mix some of these Ethereum 2 topics and this type of EWASM and so on with trying to get a front end, demonstratable front end for the app we've been working on. Anyway, if you found this helpful, please give a like, please subscribe, please ring the bell to get more videos, and share it with your friends who may be interested. I still have my little report out there, have some other ideas, but anyway, take care, and I will speak to you next time.